Hello folks, my name is Tim, and today we're going to tackle a Thorens TD165 that's been giving me a little bit of grief. First, I did a bunch of head shell swaps. I was swapping out cartridges and just seeing how different cartridges sounded and all that sort of stuff. And what I found is the old collar here and the plastic insert that holds the connection wires for the bayonet head shell connection to the arm have over time, because you're pulling the head shell off, putting it on, tightening it up, and making sure that it's nice and snug. What will happen is, if it's not snug, you'll get some hum. So I was doing a bit of tinkering with this new Thorens that I'd got. And now I start noticing that the right channel is, the left channel has been cutting out. And at first it was just kind of spotty intermittent, but now it's basically always just right channel only, and it is the turntable and not the preamp. Preamp I've hooked up other turntables to, and it works fine. What we're going to do is chase down the issue. So what I do is do a continuity check. So with my my electrical digital voltage meter here and multimeter, and so I've got the tone arm leads here. So I should be able to do a continuity check and see if I'm still maintaining a connection all the way through to the left channel. And according to this, we are. And if I do right channel, we're getting good continuity. We're getting good continuity there. We're getting good continuity with, let's see if the ground, it might be the ground. Yeah, it's the ground. And the other ground is right channel ground is up. Harder to get at. Maybe I can get it from this side. Very difficult. Let's do it from here. Can't even do it from there very well. Let's try it this way. There we go. Yeah, dead. So it's actually not the right channel signal line. It's actually the left channel ground that is electrically disconnected. Now when I take the head shell off, very on there stiff, I can go through the whole motions, and first we'll do left channel signal path. Yeah, we got continuity. Do right channel signal path. Yeah, we got continuity. Right channel should be good because it's also connected to the chassis, and there it's good. And then I go to the left channel ground, and deader than a post. And I move it around, and sometimes I do get a bit of a signal. So it tells me that the connection in here, inside this collar, is a little plastic insert in the arm tube where the tone arm wires come up through and make a connection to the bullet, I call it, or the Thorens head shell connector on these 4 pins here. And what's happening is your left ground is, if you're looking at it, is the top right is not making, or is making the connection. And what's happened is, I think what's happened is the tone arm connector has parted or is intermittent, because they're very, very fine, thin wires. And after plugging and unplugging over the years, I mean, this is a early 1970s turntable. Heck, it's been, it just gave up the ghost. So there are, Audio Karma has a number of fixes for trying to attempt to repair these. One of them is to actually get rid of the plastic insert piece and just run head shell wires continuously through the bullet. You can actually take the part out through here, make that an open gap, and then run head shell wires all the way through to the cartridge. Signal wise, that's probably the best bet, because then you have no breaks, because usually a turntable will fail and you'll get cutting out or humming because of faulty connections either at your RCA jacks or your head shell connection. So there's actually 4 points of failure for the signal path, the low-level signal path that's coming from your cartridge down to your RCAs. So the first point of failure is the connection, the physical connection of the head shell leads from the cartridge to the head shell lead connectors. And then the other point of failure is the connectors from the head shell itself to the other end of the head shell lead connectors. And then your connection point between the, I call it the bullet, but the head shell, Thorens head shell connector to the collar on the tone arm, and then your RCA terminals here where they can actually fail inside. So those are your 4 points of failure. Yes, you could say the block inside, that's protected by a box, and it's all soldered connections. So I consider that a complete, hardwired circuit, even though it's 2 separate wires from your head shell wires going to your RCA jacks from that junction block. But if those are properly soldered, and you can just physically look at it and test it with a continuity checker like I just did, and know whether that connection is in fact good or not. And I have verified that it is good. So now what we're going to do is we're going to dismantle this turntable and turntable arm. We're going to remove the arm itself, the arm tube assembly. We'll keep the actual physical assembly here on the cartridge or on the turntable, and we'll decouple it from the junction block inside, and we'll replace the head shell leads, because they're getting on to be pretty old, and they are pretty fragile wires, and with vibration and constant plugging and unplugging, you're just setting yourself up for failure. So I'm going to try and repair it so that I can keep the ability to swap out head shells, because I got a number of head shells in my collection. I've got four Thorens turntables right now, and I've got a number of these head shells, plus I also make my 3D printed head shells, and so I have quite a few options to be able to change around carts depending on the type of music I want to listen to and that sort of thing. So if I can't fix it, then that's the high road, is to try to attempt a fix so that I can actually keep the bayonet connection alive. Or if that all fails, then what I'll have to do is probably just hardwire it and just go with 1 cart on this particular turntable. You can go with multiple carts. It's just a big headache to be able to swap them out. You have to retune everything, measure your overhang distance and all that kind of stuff. So that's what we're going to attempt, and that will be my next video. Is we'll patch all these videos hopefully together. Might do a little bit of time lapse, because these videos tend to get long and people get annoyed with having to sift through very long videos. But I also get people that are complaining if I do time lapse because it doesn't show them enough detail and no description of what I'm doing during those periods. So we'll see how this turns out, and hopefully we can get this thing back online. More to follow. All right, my first little stumbling block here is the fact that this this arm assembly, unlike the TD160, which has the TP16 arm, it's basically very similar in all respects except for the anti-skate mechanism is different, and also they have a little cable that's on the arm assembly for the TP16 arm, which is same basically arm tube, but just configured differently because of the anti-skate mechanism on the versus the TP11 arm, which is this one. So on the TD160 or TP16 arm, it actually has a screw that's here, and this one requires it's got two holes on it. So you need one of those tools, I can't remember the name of the tool it's called, in order to unscrew it. So what I've got is my oyster nurse. She's got these neat little scissors that have got a pointy end, which I can get into that assembly. And what I can do is I can unscrew it. I'm just loosening it right now because I have to actually go underneath the turntable to disconnect the head shell wires from this. So I can pull the whole arm assembly out, and trying to get it to fit in the two holes. There we go. And then basically I can pivot it, I can turn it. There we go, it's turning. It's bending the scissors quite a bit, but at least it's working. So now I got a lot of play in it, which is expected. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip it upside down, and we're going to decouple the head shell wires. And I've got to order them, so it's going to take a while for that to get in. So we'll have to pause videotaping until those come in. And once I get that done, then we'll have the arm assembly out. We'll pop the pin out of here, take the collar off, and then there's that plastic insert or acrylic insert, whatever it is. And I might even try and see if I can 3D model that. Maybe I can make a new one and rewire it so that I can still do head shell swap outs. Anyway, that's going to be my goal, and we'll see what happens. So what I'll do is I'll flip this over. We'll get, in fact, I may not, because I got to prop everything up, but it's easy to disconnect the connection block between the RCA jacks and the head shell wires. All you have to do is uncouple it by solder, a soldering gun. So we'll do that. All right, I'm back again, and it's the next day. As you can see, I've changed my clothes. I've decided to take another tact on this, and what I'm doing is just delaying the inevitable. So my plan is, of course, still to take this arm tube, repair the end here, but I'm in a bit of a rush to get this turntable up and running. So I just happen to have, I'll turn the camera here a little bit. You can see over there is the twin to this turntable. It's another TD165. It had a badly scratched up top plate. This one is starting to get that way, and I think I'm going to get a new top plate for this. They're quite easy to install. But this one actually is a wonderful working arm. This is the original TD165 I have, and I just use it as my garage player. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to temporarily take this one off because I know it's working well. And I'm going to put this arm tube into this one to get this turntable up and running. And then I will leave this out, and then I'll do a separate video and a separate part, not part of the series, showing how I'm going to attempt to fix that arm tube problem. And I think what I'm going to do is try and see if I can use a resin printer. PLA printer is not going to be sturdy enough, I don't think, for making that part. And yeah, so I'm just kind of delaying that to get this turntable up because I've got an audio group coming up and I want to be able to use this turntable for our music sessions. So that's what we're going to do. So I've partially started to take this one out. I'm going to flip it up on its side. I'm going to remove the leads off of the junction block between that and the RCAs, and then I'm going to remove this arm tube, take the weight off of the end first, and then I'm going to do the same with that, and I'm going to just substitute that arm tube for this one, and then get this turntable up and running for my living room system, where we're going to have our audio group in another week or so. So hopefully we can get that up and running and sounding nice. So we'll do that as this part, and I know it's usually not, people don't have two of these kicking around where they could substitute parts and everything, but I will not leave you hanging. I will do a separate video on this arm tube and see if I can resurrect it, but that's going to be another story, so more to follow. I'm going to be a bit off camera here, so what I've done is, the other thing I should do before I even start to, you don't want to have a lot of tension on these bearing joints with a lot of weight on it. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove the counterweight here, and we'll just set that aside. I've got a parts bin here somewhere. It's always a good idea to have like a soup bowl or a parts bin to put things in so you don't lose them. So I've got one of these. I got a bunch of these trays that I've got kicking around. The head shell. I've got a bigger one back here where I keep all my head shells on my workbench. It's out of the camera shot. And so now what I've done is you can feel how loose it is where I've loosened it up with this pair of scissors that I showed yesterday. And you can see it's starting to, a lot of play in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go do that to the other side. But before I release it, what I'm going to do, first of all, I'm going to take the baseboard off. I've taken screws off the bottom. And I've also got conical feet on this new MDF baseboard that I'd made for it. And what it does is it makes a much heavier baseboard, and it stiffens up the plinth, and it makes it resonate that much less, and less susceptible to footfalls and everything. So it makes it a much more rigid plinth system with a thicker baseboard, and that's why I always remove the old baseboards because they're just garbage. And you can see I have conical feet. I'm going to replace these actually because it's on some nice furniture. I do have little pucks that they sit on, but sometimes they fall off and they can scratch furniture. So I'm going to take these off, and I've got proper feet for the bottom of this turntable that I'm going to put on. That'll be a little bit later. So we'll set that aside. And I've already got a bit of a shrapnel mess here. So I always try to keep my workbench area clean and dust free as possible, even though I'm in a garage, so it's kind of hard to do sometimes. There, just get all the crap that can scratch the table away. Set that on a bench over there so it doesn't get knocked over. And I'm going to keep this on, the sub platter on, just because this is not a very high risk maneuver, I don't think. I'm going to pull that out, because what I'm going to do, see if it'll stay like that. I've got the belt, it's holding it on, it's not slipping off or anything. And normally I'll keep a hand on it. We're going to need a little screwdriver, and what we're going to do, see if I can do this so you can see it. There's the junction block where all the tone arm leads come out of the bottom of the tone arm. They go. This is all kept under cover just so you don't bump it and knock it about, because it's very, very delicate solder connections in there. And then your RCA jack. This is where the RCA meets the head shell wires, or the tone arm wires. So we'll unscrew that, pull this block out. I'll have to get my soldering gun set up, and we're going to decouple the these leads, and you'll have to make a note of which ones is left and which is right channel. So I'll put little labels on them, even though you can see a little bit of red and yellow, I think is what they color them as for the signal path. But what I'll do is I'll use little price tag labels, and I'll label one as left, right, right ground, left ground, and then that way I know where it is when I pull this thing through. Well, I won't be able to do that because they won't go through this. Anyway, we'll tag them appropriately. I'll figure out a way of tagging them so I know what's what. So I'll be back in a bit because I've got to go and get some my soldering iron set up and a little screwdriver and all that kind of stuff. So back in a minute. Okay, tools you're going to need for this. I've got some small Phillips screwdrivers here, different sizes. Soldering iron, which I'm going to turn on here real quick, get it pumped up. Make sure you have a nice and moist sponge. This time of year it stays moist all the time, so that's a good thing. You'll also need a very, very small hex key, and that's to decouple the, actually I don't even need to decouple the arm. And then of course my scissors that I'm using as a makeshift circlip clamp kind of thing. And I got one kicking around somewhere, but I don't think I have one that's small enough. So I'm just, this is working good. And the scissor for undoing the arm. So first thing we want to do, and what I did was I placed a box behind here, so even if it did tilt back, it would land on the box and not take the strain on the arm and or the bearing or anything like that. So I'm going to hold it with one hand so I don't knock it over, and we're just going to remove this screw while this iron heats up. Well, it is already heated, and we'll set that aside in our little box so we don't lose it. Same with this assembly. And you can see the junction blocks here. So you've got the RCA jack here. Here's the RCA terminators, and it comes in and it goes underneath the block on and just zigzags through and then connects up on each side. So you've got the red is the right signal, then you've got a ground attached on that same cable. And then on the other side you have the yellow, which is your left channel, and then the shield, which is your left ground. And on the right ground, you actually have, on this post over here, you actually have a grounding wire to the actual chassis part. And that's the reason why you don't need a grounding cable on these particular turntables that goes to your preamp. There is a modification where you can actually do that, and if you are having grounding problems, but that's usually if you're having a grounding problem, it's that issue where one of those 4 breaks in your signal path are problematic. And it's been my experience that very few issues are related to the way they actually designed the grounding system on this turntable. So now that we've got that done, we're going to have to have a look here and decouple these without knocking the turntable over. So that's going to be a challenge. So one way to do it is to take that block assembly off. And what I do is I use a big flathead screwdriver, and very gently I just put it where there's 2 little pins that are on this nylon junction block that are poked into holes, sockets on the bottom of the plate here. So you can just pop it in there and then just do a little bit of a twisting motion. You see how it released? And likewise on the other side. There, and that's released it. And now what we'll do is I'll take another Phillips screwdriver and we'll remove the grounding wire that goes to the chassis of the the suspended chassis of the turntable, just because that'll act as a tether, and I want to be able to get this thing away from the turntable to do my desoldering. So you do this a few times, you get a little comfortable doing it. It's not that a big a deal. There we go. So that releases that that would otherwise be a tether, and it wouldn't allow you to pull the block out very far. So I'm going to put that in my little box so I don't lose that screw. And now we can pull this whole assembly out. And you can see where that RCA jack zigzags and comes in and actually connects up to the, and this is just basically a post that goes all the way through. And what that enables you to do is connect the RCA jacks directly up with the tone arm lead wires. And there you go. Now you can see it much more clearly in the daylight, away from the turntable, so it's not going to knock over. And I wonder if I need to move this over a little bit, and we'll lock that in place so it doesn't. Okay, we'll make this a little further over, and we can see this is a yellow wire, and that's going up to the yellow, and then there's a red wire, and then there's a, so I don't even really need to mark these because they're actually colored, and you can see which wire, grounding wire goes with each wire. So really all I have to do is decouple that. I'll get myself a nice little set of needle nose pliers, just because it gets hot when you put the solder to the terminal. You don't want to touch the solder on there too long. You don't want to melt anything. But let's see what we can do. There we go. That was easy. So that's the yellow left channel signal wire. It's decoupled. Now we're going to do the, you got to be careful. You don't want to, there's the ground wire, and you could probably strip these down later and lengthen them if they're too short. We'll do the right ground wire. Oh, this one's got quite a bit of cable attached to it. My old hands are, there we go. And the ground wire I'm not going to touch. I'm going to leave that. And that goes to, interesting. There we go. That's the two lead wires, and then there is a ground wire that comes from the arm itself, and that's attached to this grounding right channel ground connection, and that's where this one is attached to. So what I'm going to do, and that's attached to the tone arm as well. I forgot about that one. Okay, I'm going to get this out of the way. I don't want to disconnect this one. I want to disconnect this one. Let's see where it's connected. Actually, I'm just going to snip that one. Well, maybe I can get it off. Let's see. Yeah, there we go. And I took that one with it. That's not a big deal. All right, so we've got the ground lead, which I'm going to put over here. I'm going to lose that. You can use any other wire too. And then, so now we've just got half the terminal block. So you can see how the RCA jacks are hooked into the terminal block. And then, oh, I see how they do that. That's actually hooked to the ground as well. So that's your what's grounding the chassis, and then the sub chassis is grounded through that little strap. So there's two grounds that are attached to that, and then the grounding wire of the arm itself, which are all right there. And we're going to pull all that through. And it's easy to know which ones because of the colors of the RCA cables here on this particular one. Sometimes you're not so lucky and they're not colored that way. So if they've put aftermarket RCA jacks on, so then you would have to sort of do some labeling or whatever. Okay, so we've got that disconnected now. We're going to leave that in there. And this block assembly we're going to leave out, because we're going to reuse this. We'll put this over on my bench so it's not in the way. And we're going to turn this off so we don't get any burns or anything until we're ready to do the next soldering evolution, which is putting the other arm on. So the next part is continue to remove the arm tube from the turntable. And I'm going to put these in loose so that they've got a path of slipping out when I go in there. The power cable, and then I've got a little, I'm just having it rest on the rubber of the platter here, on top of the platter, so I don't have any tension on the power line here. Okay, so now we've got this loose, we've got this counterweight off, and next thing we're going to do is go with our scissor trick, and hopefully this one isn't very stubborn. These have been in here a long time, so they may be a bit seized. The idea is not to put too much torque on the tube itself. You don't want to bend it or any of the bearing well parts here. Okay, there it is. It's starting to go. There we go. It's a little sticky. Maybe need a little grease or something. There we go. Wish I had all the right fancy tools, but I don't. I'm just a hobbyist. So there we go. Now we've released it. And we can now pull all those wires out. See, there's that other ground strap. That's where it goes to, is the tube itself. There we go. And then we should be able to pull it all the way through. Now I'm going to lift it up here just so I can coax it from the other way, make it come in straight through instead of bunging up. See, it can get snag on these things here. So what we're going to do, now it pulls out nicely. Pull them out one at a time, that way they're not all going through at the same time. Yeah, because you get all the solder bits that are kind of still chunky there. So you pull them out one at a time. That one might need to be snipped because it's got a big chunk of solder on it. There's that one. There's that one. I've just got one that's sort of hanging on. And for that, we'll just get, that's the grounding wire. Oh no, that's the left channel. Okay, what we'll do is we'll get a snipper here and just snip the, see there's a big blob of solder on the end of this. I should have cleaned that off, but it doesn't matter. I've got lots of cable. I can snip off a little millimeter of it and reconnect it that way. There we go. There you go. One arm completely off, and you still have all your assemblies, so we didn't have to remove or touch any of that. So there's our problematic arm tube. There's a little pin there that we're going to pop out. And the idea is you want to have that down and pop it down. So if you scar this part, then it's going to be on the underneath part of the arm. But that'll be another video. So this is the arm tube that will be for this one. And now I'm going to take this, set it aside, and then I'm going to bring the other turntable over there, back here, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm not going to film that because I just showed you how to do it on this one. It's an identical turntable. And we're going to salvage the arm tube off that, and then we're going to try and fix this one a little bit later. So more to follow. I went digging through my tools and I found my circlip remover. So now using this hokey little pair of surgical scissors, or eyelash scissors, whatever they are. Now I found this part and it works perfectly. So I've got different attachments with different diameters. So I've set that up and now that'll actually take it out. So that's a circlip remover and it's the perfect tool for this job. So there we have it. It's and it switches between pulling apart and pinching together, so it works good. Anyway, so I've got the block assembly undone here. Maybe I should move this more on camera. I've got this setting on the screwdriver thing, so I'm not putting any tension on the wires here, but you can see the junction block down at the bottom of the screen here, right there. The RCAs have been removed off of this one. I'm going to put some new ones on because the other ones they're really fat and they were just ungainly, and I want to get low capacitance proper RCAs for this. A lot of people think you can just put any old RCAs onto a turntable, and that's not the truth. You need low capacitance cables for that. Anyway, there's lots of information on the internet about that if you don't believe me. So back to square one here. So we've got a bunch of wires to disconnect again. We've got the left and right, which are green and red, so I don't need to label those, which is good. I've got the soldering iron heated up. I've got my little pliers so I don't burn my hands trying to hold this thing. I'm going to do this better. I'm more right-handed, so let's do this. Hold the pliers with my left hand instead. Let's clean off the end of the soldering iron so we can get the heat right to it really quick and not have to have a lot of time on the solder. So there we go. That one's off. I don't know if you can see it. Yeah, you can see it, I guess. So I just hold it with the pliers, needle nose pliers. Apply a little heat to the solder gob on the ends and pull, and there we go. This one isn't going to be as badly soldered up as the previous one is. We're going to just try and remove just this one, but it didn't work the last time, so let's see what happens. There we go. We got it off without having to disconnect that one. Oh, yeah, but it will disconnect this time because oh, there we go. And one more, the red lead. Let's try and clean that off so it doesn't bung up in the tube. So you can see this is quite easy to do. You just need a steady hand and a good soldering iron. And I don't have the steadiest hands in the planet, so as you can see, I just tried to burn myself. And there we go. So we got all 3 wires disconnected, and 2 of them are split into 2 wires with a shielding on it, and the other one is just a plain grounding cable for the shaft of the tone arm tube. So now we're done with that for a while until we're ready to reconnect. And so we can see it here. So I've got this circlip remover. So what I do is I just pop it into the holes in the side of the screw. That's why I like the 160 better. It actually has, I can't remember whether it's Phillips or a flathead, but it has just a regular screwdriver connection. So that's that one released. Then we're going to do this side. I'm going to move around the other side because it's kind of hard to pull on your side. There. It's easier to do it this way. You get a little more positive control. And see if we can do it without having to get rid of this queuing thing. The light is not great here. Come on. There we go. Back it off a few turns. Don't have to remove it entirely. It slipped out. Let's see. Oh, we got it. We got it. So, there we go. All right. So, we'll do the same thing. We'll pop it up on its back end here. Get all the solder bits and dust away so I don't scratch the back of the plinth. And we'll slowly pull this out. And then we'll pull out each wire individually. And is this one bunging up on the solder? Yeah. There we go. There we go. And there we go. So now we got a naked plinth with its power cable, which we'll put back over on my shelf over here and bring the other one back for some reconnection surgery. You know, at the very least, this shows you if you have a damaged arm tube, how to remove the arm tube and put a new one in. I've got some new old stock arm tubes for my TD160s, which were bent. One was bent right by the collar here, and the other one just had a natural warp to it. So I got some new old stock arm tubes from Switzerland and replaced them, and I have videos on my YouTube channel for that as well. Okay, we'll pause it here while I'll get the other turntable back. All right, so we're back with the other turntable here. I got this one facing forward just so you can see how this is going to go in. So this is the new arm tube, or not the new one, it's off the other turntable, but this is the good arm tube. And so you can see the one cable here, which is your grounding strap for the arm tube itself, and then you've got the two lead wires that come from the pins that are inside the collar here. There's a I don't know if it's nylon or whatever it is. It's some sort of an epoxy kind of holder that holds the four clips where the toner, the head shell, the TP60 head shell mates up to it. And that's the problem in the other arm tube, is one of those has probably, they're very, very fine wires, and possibly one of those had let go. And so my left ground, I think it was the one that let go. So you got two little pins, really needle sharp bearings here, basically. And this, the tone arm leads are on the bottom. And what we're going to do is feed them through the tube here that's on the tone arm assembly here that you can see, pivots. And then there's two little, with that circlip, whatever you want to call it, tool, there's two little wells that those sit in, and then you tighten it. You don't want it too tight because then it won't be able to go up and down properly. It'll pinch it too much and it'll cause it to bind. So you want to have a balance of no play and having it nice and snug, but it's still moving up and down in a fluid motion without ever having any kind of resistance. And that's the tricky part of the artistic part, I think, of doing this kind of thing. So what we're going to do is we're going to feed these through one at a time, pull them in, just so I've got the ends there where I can tug on them, and then we're going to feed this down in through and mate it up to those receiving wells that I realized all this time I was filming, I thought I was filming and I wasn't. So what I did was I ended up putting all the wires back through the tube. It was a bit of a chore because they're very flimsy wires. And yeah, can you see me? There we go. Very flimsy wires. And the thing you want to do is make sure you're not dinging the bearing cones. There's little conical bearings here that sit into these recessed bowls on these screws. That's what we're actually hooking them into it. I found the circlip thing, which is working really, really well. And what I did was I fed all the cables through. You want to make sure there's no loops or anything like that, because even the cables themselves can affect the tracking of your tone arm. And the thing you want to concentrate on is getting these bearings back into the wells and make sure they're not too tight, because if they're too tight, they will bind the arm and make it not ride the vinyl properly. So there's a gentle balance between being too tight and too loose. So that's part of the trick, is making sure that you're not over tightening it and damaging those conical bearings. But if it's too loose, then you're going to have too much play in your tone arm, and that's not good either. So here we are, trying to get the one bearing in to a nice position. And it's a little tricky with this big meat hook of a circlip plier, but now we're in. On that side, I think good. So it's still need to do the other side here, and you can see, oh, did we jump out? We're just far enough. Get the cone in there. I may have to back this one out a bit. Yeah. Well, we missed a whole bunch of dialogue here because I realized my phone was running out of memory, and what was happening was it was shutting down halfway through a recording because it was a lack of memory in my phone. So I had to scrub off a whole bunch of videos off my drive or off my phone, and now I can make long recordings again. Okay, so I think it's cut out right where I was just explaining that really important to make sure you get this bearing in there correctly. I'm not sure how much I missed. I didn't get a chance to watch it all. But the idea is you want to make sure that there's no resistance to movement up and down, because that's the up and down bearings there. The side-to-side ones we didn't touch. So if it's too loose, then it'll be sloppy. And if it's too tight, then it can cog. So what I ended up doing was I just, you can do it by feel quite well. And yeah, I think I nailed it. So now we've got the arm in, and all we really need to do now is to flip the turntable back up and resolder the junction block to the RCAs, and we may be back in business. So try and get this centered a little bit better. clean up my table a bit. And what we'll do is get rid of some of this extraneous stuff that we don't need anymore. So we're done with all the stuff I needed to adjust the bearing, because I think I got it just right. And yeah, let's press onward. I'm getting my table really messy over there. I gotta tidy that up. So what we're going to do is we're going to lift this back up, and I'll get my trusty box so it doesn't fall over backwards in behind here. Don't want to have that happening. And the only trouble is I'm blocking out my light here a little bit, but let's move the camera over here so we can see where I'll be doing. There we go. That's where I'll be doing the soldering here. So what I ended up doing is I had to solder these things together, the two leads that come off of here, just to fit them through, because they were spreading out and then bunging up in the hole there. So I soldered them together, and we're going to separate that solder. Get my parts bin over here. I got parts from the other turntable there too, and this turntable, so I don't want to mix them all up. This is the one from the other turntable. No, this is, oh, I see, yeah, it is. This is the one from the other turntable. And this other one is the one where I have the RCA jacks all soldered in, and those are all nice and solid. I haven't lost the connection there. So, and this, the way this one sits on all of these is it sits on the, where the RCAs are soldered in, it faces in towards the middle of the inside of the plinth. So what we're going to end up doing is soldering these things on this side. And if memory serves me correct, the yellow or the left channel is on the closest to the motor. And that's how it basically sits in there. So before we snap that in, we need to first of all separate the, so that's the green red, that's the, so this is our grounding strap. And then remember the other one came off too. So we're going to solder these on together. I'm going to turn on my soldering iron. And it's off camera, but you can see the soldering gun there. I'll put it right there. And just make it available so I don't burn myself. I wish I had my other light here. I guess you can see it's fairly good. That's good for low light camera. Okay, so this is my grounding wire. So these two kind of guys go together, and then they get soldered onto there. And then the other ground cable for the red, which is that one, I believe. Oh, maybe I got it. No, this is the red and ground. Good thing I double checked. That's the solders, the grounding cable. Okay, low light here. That's my excuse. Okay, this should be nice and heated up now. It's a good soldering, one of those Hakko soldering stations. I use it tons. So, let's get that soldered on. No, didn't stick. That stuck. Perfect. Now what I've got to do is I've got to separate out these, I soldered these ones with the two leads on it together so they would go through the tube of the tone arm assembly down into the bottom of the chassis. So now we got to try to separate those out without having a physical electrical contact between them. There we go. So now I've got them separated. You can see how it makes a little Y shape there. You may be able to see it in the film, I'm not sure. And then the same with the other one. I kept them together to go through the assembly. There. That's got that separated. So, remembering that this goes this way, and the yellow goes to the yellow, red to the red. So here we have, it's hard to see, it's kind of a greenish actually, but that's kind of the equivalent of the yellow. But I haven't got this one totally separated yet. Still a little solder hanging on there. You got to make sure these are electrically separated, otherwise you're going to have troubles. There we go. Okay. These are super, super fine wires. Okay, I'm going to get some soldering stuff. Some solder here, just to make sure I have a good little blob on the terminal here. So it's got something to adhere to. Sometimes I use one of those helping hands to help me with this thing, but let's see if we can do it without. I've got enough solder on there, I think. So this is really hard to see. Really hard to see. And it's not being nice. Sorry if you're seeing my back, but the job comes first. Shit. Sorry about that. I'm going to need a helping hand. Needs to be lower. There we go. So, just got to think backwards here because I got it opposite. So, that's the ground. That is the lead. Got to go underneath the helping hand. Need more wire here. There we go. There we go. There we go. Now, we're going to do the other side. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a continuity checker and make sure I don't have any of these cross-connected at all. Now, where's the red? There's the red. I'll do a left-handed solder here. Well, no. I am so right-handed, it's not funny. There we go. And last one. Is done. It's there. There's a little bit of a nib there I want to cut off because I don't want to have. There we go. There, that should do it. So now I'm going to take a multi-tester and put it on continuity mode. And continuity mode, for those that don't know how to use a DVM or a multimeter. So when you make a contact, when it's got a good signal path, you'll hear a beep. So what you don't want to have is a beep coming between the two, because that means somewhere they're touching. So that's good. And that's good. And this one should go to chassis. No, I don't have it hooked to chassis yet. Let me see. Oh, I know what I need. I'll use another helping hand over here and put my RCAs in there. So I should get continuity between the red and the tip of the signal path should be in the tip of the thing here. So that's working good. And you don't want it touching the shielding, so that's good. It's not making a beep. So if you do test the shielding, that's working, and you don't want it to go to the signal path, that's good. And same with, there we go, that's making contact. That's making contact, and it's not cross making contact. That's good. So we know that signal path is good. And what we can do is we can do actually all the way to the end of the, so you can't see the collar in here, but I'm touching the probes inside the collar to where the center positive is. There, we got contact. It's not grounding out anywhere else on the other ones, so that's working. The ground. Now this is right grounded, this turntable. So if I touch there, it will work, and if I touch the tube, it will work. But yeah, that's exactly what I want to see. And or any part of the chassis. It should, if I touch that, or not the chassis, just the arm tube. That's right, because I don't have it hooked to the chassis yet. And same with the port one, or the, there we go, we got in contact for the left signal path, but no contact with the ground, so no signal with the, so it's not cross-connected with the ground, which is good. So that's a signal path. And it's not cross-connected. Perfect. And that's working good. So perfect. It's working good. All four leads in the collar of the head shell are working perfectly. Now we can put this thing back in play. Put it in, oh, and then we have to really cross-connect this as well. We have to put this back on, the grounding screw. And we saved that, remember? And we also have the box here that we saved that's going to cover that, protect it. The other turntable didn't have that box, so it's not necessary, but it's just a good thing to not expose those wires. So if anything touches them, you'll short something out or muck your signal up. Yeah, it's a little dark here. I'm having trouble seeing. Still recording? Good. I made up enough memory to keep the recording alive. That's good. Okay, and then we're just going to screw that in. Oh, and that's why we had that box on the other side. It saved it. There. Okay, and now we don't want these wires to have any tension on them. So we're going to put those into play. Is it all the way through? Is it in the right? Yeah. There. Now it's in. And all these lead wires come out this side, because that's where the spacing is for it. And we'll put the box on. And somewhere in here is a screw. So there's the box that covers it. It's not a shield. Well, it is painted with kind of a silver paint. I don't know if that's a proper shield though. But who knows, maybe it is conductive. I don't know. Let's find out. Yeah, it is. So it is a Faraday shield. Impressive. It's like a silver paint. Okay. So the slot here is for the there we go. There. And you can see the screw hole through there. And we'll screw that in. There we go, nice and rigid. This, I usually put a little piece of tape, but you don't want to have any tension on here, because that could actually alter how the, you want to make sure it's all detension, but you don't want to also have this wire. So a lot of times when you get them from the factory, they have a little piece of tape across there, allowing this free motion. You don't want any kind of impedance to the arm moving side to side, so it's got to have a little bit of a flex to it, and it should come straight down, and nothing should be pulling on it, and that should do it. So I'm going to just, for now, use a little bit of electrical tape. I don't have any of the other kind of tape that they usually use. Okay, scissors. Again, once again, don't want any tension on it. There, we'll just put it like that. And then that allows it to flex around. Okay. And we're done. Except for reassembling the arm and rebalancing the weights. We'll turn off this. We'll clean up my desk here. Get rid of my helping hands. And we'll lower down the turntable, put it on its, oh, I gotta put the bases, the feet back on, the new feet on the, on that. I might as well show you doing that. Let's get this out of here. And unplug it. So this is the Hakko soldering station. Get that out of the way. And we'll lower the table down. And I'm going to get the feet, and we'll show you installing the feet on that, on the base plate. Back in a minute. Okay, this is the baseboard I made for it, and I have a separate video on my YouTube channel how to make these. I just use I take the old crappy baseboards off these because they're flimsy and they don't do anything, they don't hold the plinth together or make it rigid and tight as well as a thick MDF one will. So what I do is I just clone that and paint it black so it doesn't take away from the looks of the turntable, because it does stick out a little bit below the bottom. These are kind of cones. I like them, but they're a bit of a pain in that they can scratch your furniture and stuff. And there are, I don't have them handy here. I don't think I have any here. They're inside on the furniture still. What I do is they sit in a well, and then that prevents them from taking these. They're just double-sided taped on, and I decided to go with more friendlier feet. Doesn't matter, that's going to hide the thing there. And then put these rubberized feet for just for my wife's furniture. She doesn't want to have her shrink scratched. So we're going to take these off, which are more fitting for in the garage here, probably. Use those for speaker cones or something, which is really what they are. And I've got screws here for them. So, need a Phillips driver, I think. Yep. Okay, so we'll just put them in the same place as they were. Right there. I wonder, do you want them that way or the other way? Probably doesn't matter. I'm going to go this way. All the way through. Guess I should have measured it. Oh yeah, nice and rigid. Nice. I like those. Yeah. And go with a couple of these to give it a little more space. I need a smaller one. No, not going to work. That'll work. Okay. Perfect. Okay, I'm gonna stop it here. You catch the drift. Okay, got them all in, and I put a locking washer in each of them, so they're all the same height. And there's our new base plate, all done up. And then I gotta reinstall this, which is the arm holder, and get rid of some of these tools. All right. So I've, as you can see, you got two slots here, and that's for, one is for the power cable and one's for the RCA jacks. And get rid of all this stuff so we don't have scratch up our turntable or anything, our plinth. Get rid of these. And now we can install the turntable onto the thing, and I won't screw it down until the very last thing in case there's adjustments and stuff. I'll do the sound checks and all that stuff before I will screw the base plate down. That's just the way I roll, because there's no point in cinching everything down and then having to tear it apart if you mucked up something. So, usually fits in there nice and snug. There we go. And then we got to get these things through the slots here. Oh, I'm way ahead on this one. You guys are probably laughing at me as I do this. There. Perfect. And it's solid. It's not rocking or anything. And now we got to put this back on. So it's, once again, it's just a little hex key that holds it on. You want to make sure you get the right height, and we'll adjust that when we play with it. If it's too far down, you want to have it just right. And there we go. Again, we can play with that. That's a final adjustment thing. Let's see how that one is. Kind of like that. Yeah. There we go. So that's probably going to be about it there, but we'll adjust that when we need to adjust that. It's a little high, I think. There we go. Just going by that angle there. Okay. Now, and the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to polish this. As you can see, it's very oxidized. Again, that's one of the last things I do to make it pretty. And once again, this one does not have the motor protection rod. So you got to be very careful putting this on. And I'm going to get a motor protection. I'll 3D print a motor protection rod and put one of those on, because that will save your motor from getting a bent shaft, because some people drop those onto that motor, and that's a turntable killer, because those motors are almost irreplaceable. Very expensive to replace. So we'll put that on. We'll get the head shell, and I don't do this one with an expensive cartridge. I do this with a very cheap $50 kind of cartridge, just in case I gum something up. Normally what I do is I take that off, but out of expediency, There we go. Lock the collar on. And put a bubble to it. I'll have to do that inside. I don't have one out here. Normally I put a bubble on there to make sure it's flat. And this. And we'll just do a quick adjustment here. Do a quick balance. I got the hanger weight in there as well. So what we want to do is get this close to 0, balanced. Yeah, that looks good. So we're balancing it. Oh, that looks right. That's perfect right there. So we don't move the weight, we just move the dial here. It's very stiff, so we'll just double check it. Right there, it's perfect. And just a little hair to move that, and then 1.5 grams. And that's for this turntable. And I got a hanger weight here. Very hard to see. I was panicking there. I thought I lost it, but it was there, right where I put it. And you need good eyesight for this. There we go. And now we're ready to try it and see if it works. And then we can do all the tweaking and adjusting, and I'll do a digital weigh scale, make sure I got my tracking force dialed in, and my anti-skate is all the stuff that I do in my videos. We'll do with this one. This is just to make sure that everything is working. So we'll reconvene in the living room, plugged into my quad system. Be right back. Okay, I was about ready to throw this thing in the garbage, but what I ended up doing was, so what I did was I plugged it in, and I got a nasty hum on the left channel. And I knew my work was good, because I did all the continuity tests and everything. And what I ended up doing was I went to another head shell, and so what it is corroded contact, and you can see it. It's verdigris all over this one. It's a crappy cartridge, and I'm going to bin this one. I think the head shell, the lead wires are done, so I've got to change out the lead wires on that. So now I've got it on phono on disc. Before, when I put disc, it just hummed off the left channel, and as you can see, you notice the bubble is a little high here, but that's because the arm is resting higher on the armrest, but it's dead center fore and aft, which is what you want. And so what we'll do is, and I'm not sure about this cartridge either. It's got it's an older M93E, but Oh yeah. And this is a buddy's band of mine. It's called Astrocolor. And they're actually doing a New Year's Eve thing here in Victoria. But look at that. How good does that work? So all the fruits of my labor have paid off. I still have some tweaking to do. I want to rebalance do the springs a little bit more because I had it upside down and doing all kinds of funky things to it. And I want to, looks like I nailed it bang on for the Q lift arm there. And the sound, both channels, nice even sound between the channels. I think all I need to do is more tweaking now. Holy smokes. And that's Astrocolor. My buddy is the drummer in this band. Amazing drummer. So there you have it. A successful arm tube swap on a TD165, and we'll do another video showing you how I'm going to try and fix that other arm tube and get that one operational again. So thank you very much for watching.